Welcome to ZIPS Nation Insider. My name is Jacob Farrar, back for another week. We have Camden Stockton with us. Camden, welcome to ZIPS Nation Insider.
Thanks, Jacob. Excited to be here.
So we're doing things a little bit different. Camden is our guest, but he also is going to join us for this opening segment as we recap this week in ZIPS Athletics like we normally do here on each episode. And instead of running down kind of team by team, this past week, I guess this week, but from activity last week and over the weekend, we had a number of awards for ZIPS players from a variety of teams. So let's kind of run through some of those accolades and awards this week. Let's start off with Jack Kelly. Jack is a pitcher for the ZIPS baseball team, was named MAC Pitcher of the Week based off of his outing at Toledo. Toledo on Sunday played Toledo 1-0 win. For Jack, 3 8 innings, 0 runs, struck out 7. And in addition to getting the win for the game, they also was their first series win of the season. So we're great. It's great to see Jack back in form. He hadn't played a little bit earlier in the season, and just kind of continuing what happened last season. We also had Joy Wokike from the track and field team. Joy set a new school record of 52.9 in the 400 meters at the Florida Relay. Was named again MAC Women's Track Athlete of the Week. The fastest time in the MAC this season, as well as, I don't know if you knew this, the number 25 fastest in NCAA this year. So Joy is continuing on a tear. Also part of the team that set the school record in the 4x100 at 45.19. So Joy was named Women's Track Athlete of the Week. We keep going down. We had Katie Bomber. Katie is a midfielder for the lacrosse team, was Defensive Player of the Week for her play against Kent State. You talked a little bit about that earlier before we jumped on camera. Beat Kent State. That's always, regardless of what the sport is, right?
Always good to win a wagon wheel game.
There we go. And they did it in true ZIPS fashion, a blowout, 14-9. You know, what's interesting about this lacrosse team, and I don't know how much you get into lacrosse yourself, you know, this season has been fantastic. Last year, they won 7 total matches. They're already at 8 wins this season, and there's still 3 games left. So they're definitely on track to obviously be better than they did last season. And right now, they're at top of the MAC standings. So
yeah, we're really impressed with what Coach Jones is doing with the lacrosse team.
Yeah, it's been great to see the success they've been having. And then finally, Macy Walters, a pitcher for the softball team. She's earned her second MAC Pitcher of the Week award. She went with 3 wins and a .98 ERA. Pretty good, .98. Currently, ZIPS are 500 in the MAC with a 6-6 record. So again, wanted to just kind of bring up some of the success that happened this week for the ZIPS teams. In addition, some cool news coming from the men's basketball team. A couple things. We have Coach Gross with his extension. I'm sure for the folks that you work with in your role, they're pretty excited to see that extension.
Certainly happy to keep Coach Gross here. It's a 10-year extension, so we're hoping to keep him here 2034, 2035, and hopefully beyond, and continue the success that we've been able to put together the last few years.
I'm sure that probably calmed a lot of nerves for ZIPS basketball fans, especially as the NCAA tournament ends and that coaching carousel happens. When you have a mid-major coach that has success, there's always some concern of where they go, and it was great to see that I don't want to say lock him in, but that's probably the best way to describe it. But he's here to stay for the next 10 years, hopefully. Fingers crossed that continues. And then finally, also on the basketball team, we have brothers reuniting. Evan Mahaffey is joining his brother, Eric. Eric was a freshman last year, sophomore this year, transferred in from Ohio State to join the men's basketball team. So,
yeah, and it's been impressive what Coach Gross has done. And another reason that you want to have that extension and that long-term longevity with him is you've got a program that needs continuity, the culture that he's built, and we're one of the few mid-majors, probably the only mid-major that's bringing back the vast majority of a huge roster. So you're looking at 8-9 guys that are going to be returning next year, which in the transfer portal era, unheard of.
Absolutely. we talked to Coach Gross earlier this season, and it's cool to see us as buyers as opposed to folks leaving, so to speak, to try to find maybe greener pastures. So, knock on wood, whatever. We'll see what happens next season, but everything's looking in a positive trajectory to continue the success. All right, so that was our week recap. So Camden, we're definitely excited to learn more about you in your role as the Senior Associate Athletic Director for Development for ZIPS Athletics. You've been here on campus since June of 2022, so coming up on your 3-year anniversary. Let's talk a little bit about your journey to athletics development. What brought you to Akron and kind of what inspired you to go about that career path?
Yeah, well, it's weird to think about at this point. I've been doing college athletics longer than I wasn't doing college athletics. Started working in an athletic department at 18 at Truman State University, my alma mater. Was doing everything there, Division II program, and honestly, they just wanted a warm body. But I found out
That's a good place to start,
yeah,
right?
I found out that I really enjoyed it, and it opened my eyes to jobs that I didn't even really know existed in athletics. Really, I thought it was like coaching, and that was really it.
Sure.
Got to do all kinds of things, got my hands dirty in pretty much every area of an athletics department, and found out I was pretty good at the sales side, pretty good at ticket sales, and we were doing some sponsorships and a little bit of what we would call annual giving development, small gifts, and that got my feet wet. And from there, did a little circuit in the MLS trying to sell pro tickets with Sporting Kansas City. Went on to West Virginia, got a graduate assistantship in the Mountaineer Athletic Club, and the rest is history, so they say. I've been at several schools, P4, G5, Division I with non-basketball schools, and got an opportunity to come to Akron, and be in charge of the full fundraising shop, which was always kind of a goal of mine and certainly a great place to get started.
So those starts, what have you been able to apply for those stops that you've had to here at Akron?
What I've found is really in college athletics, all of our problems are the same. The zeros are different.
Got it.
So, if you're looking at those P4 institutions and they've got $100 million budgets, the zeros just change.
Sure.
Everyone's got the same problems. No one's got enough. Coaches are needing more and more revenue, more and more.
Engaging with fans.
Getting fan support. All of that stuff goes together. And it's always interesting to see the similarities, but everywhere's got their own little niches too that make it challenging at every spot that you go.
Sure. One thing I wanted to ask you, and I was maybe thinking that you would kind of mention that in your career journey, but what brought you to Truman State?
Truman State, yeah. So the Truman State, the Princeton of the Prairie. No, Truman State is an excellent school, an excellent academic school. And frankly, I got a pretty nice scholarship to go there. And it was just an opportunity to go and get out of school without a whole lot of debt. And edit out this part, but there was a girl that I might have been chasing after at the time too. So,
But your time in athletics, though, it wasn't just in the back office stuff. You did some other things for athletics at Truman State.
Oh, yes. I was a cheerleader at Truman State, if that's what you're getting at. Very proud. Go Dogs. Go Dogs.
So, not in your bio here at Akron, but I, did a little bit of research. Mm-hmm. So, cheerleading captain, not just a cheerleader, you're a captain.
That is true. Captain, captain 2 years. That was a good time. I actually came back for a 5th year because we were going to competition and we were bringing back a good squad and took a little victory lap. So
I guess all this to say is that, again, your experience with athletics has been on both sides, right? The business side of athletics, but you've also been a student athlete as a member of the cheerleader team. So you can kind of have both of those viewpoints, so to speak, in your efforts, what you do here at the University of Akron.
Yeah, student athlete is a light term. My wife was a student athlete. She played volleyball at West Virginia. So I've been able to see a lot closer through her experiences, through my own experiences, what the student athletes go through on a day-to-day basis and the additional effort on top of school that they're having to put in at their craft.
Yeah, 100%. That's big believer in the idea of quite frankly, as someone in business, looking at opportunities to hire student athletes just because of their ability to manage time. How do they organize themselves? I mean, that is definitely a skill that is in need in business. So to your point, you understand kind of the challenges that they have on a regular basis. So talk about your role a little bit as a Senior Associate Athletics Director for Development. What does your day-to-day look like?
Yeah, so no 2 days are ever the same. I think that's one of the best parts about college athletics, and probably also one of the most frustrating parts about college athletics. But realistically, we oversee a vast majority of the revenue that's coming in. Annually, we're looking anywhere between $4 and $5 million in donations to the university. And then we're also overseeing the ticket office, which does, $700,000 or so in ticket sales annually. So realistically, it's coming in, you're checking out every day who's playing, making sure that the schedules look good. And then you're also trying to guess, upcoming things that may be coming down the pipe so that we're ready to go in fundraising. So, for example, we knew Coach Gross was going to win his National Coach of the Year award, but we had a small window that we knew that. So we were making a whole campaign centered around, hey, here's another option to sell tickets, another opportunity to sell tickets, and another opportunity to grab a few more donations.
So looking at what's going on in athletics, to look at how do you leverage those types of events or opportunities to further engage with donors.
Yeah, absolutely.
So within fundraising, there's kind of two big things probably on your, well, there's probably a lot of things on your mind, but looking at kind of short-term versus some long-term capital type programs, how do you balance, right? People only have so much money, right? So how do you kind of look at the balance between, working with donors to help them on maybe short-term programs versus some of the more longer-term, like, a field or something like that?
Yeah, it really depends on the capacity of the donor, their passions and their interests. I would say I'm more of a guidance as opposed to directing them somewhere. Okay. So, I directing, I'm really like point and shoot, like this is where we're going, as opposed to what are you interested in? Yeah. What do you what gets you going? Why do you like athletics? For some people that might be scholarship. They just want people to have opportunities to go to school and play. Others, want to see programs come back. And that's when you're talking about fields and you're talking about, large endowments and that sort of thing. And then really it's talking to them, nuts to bolts, everything about how does the department function? How does the income come in? What do those things actually cost?
Sure.
Because once you start getting into the brass tacks, like the numbers start to get a little staggering, and it helps people understand where they want to direct their money.
Sure. It's working with those donors, what they're interested in, and then kind of, to your point, directing them. Because there's not a out of the box, here's exactly, maybe you do have some of those like, hey, we need money for this specific thing, but also really looking to see where they're, kind of if they're a former baseball player, how do we direct them maybe towards the baseball team since they have an affinity towards that.
Yeah, we'll get donors that come in, and some of them have ideas that we haven't even thought of.
Oh, interesting.
We also work with the coaches a lot to understand what their needs are. So we meet with them several times throughout the year to understand what their needs are, where that evolves, and really understand how we can take their program to the next level. Because most of our donors, they really want to help. They just want to help. They want to help the coaches, and it's not necessarily about them or where they want to put their money. It's, Coach, tell me what you need to get you to the next level.
Sure. Well, right now we have on campus and within the athletics is Day of Giving coming up in a few days, April 17th. Let's talk a little bit about last year, raised over $182,000. That's the most, or at least surpassing the previous year's totals. So what can we expect for 2025 and the Day of Giving coming up next week? Any new goals, themes?
Yeah, Day of Giving. So the goals are all team oriented.
Okay.
What we really like to do is pick specific goals that'll help a team get, their next level of contribution and what we think they can reasonably achieve.
Got it.
For example, a few years ago, the rifle team wanted a trailer. They needed a trailer. Not only did they want one, they needed one. They take long trips. They've got a lot of equipment, and the trailer, we were able to meet the goal, surpass the goal. And it also helps our donors to really see those goals be accomplished, and then the tangible side of it.
Sure.
Hey, here's the trailer that you helped buy.
Exactly.
And we can follow up with them and say, hey, you helped us buy this. We accomplished that goal, as opposed to the money just goes into a black pit and you never see it again.
Sure. So do you have some of those for each of the sports? For baseball, it's this. For football, it's this. Is that kind of how it works?
Exactly. That's so we meet with each coach, as I said. We work on what we think they can reasonably bring in on day of giving, and then we say, hey, for $20,000, what fits in there that you would reasonably need or to help take the program to the next level. So this year you'll see anything from, hey, we really need recruiting dollars, extra recruiting dollars, all the way up to, hey, we still need some locker room upgrades. We need equipment, that sort of thing.
Got it. Anyone have powder blue uniforms for any of this?
Powder blue uniforms didn't make the list this year.
It's too bad. I'm still a big fan of the baseball team used to have some powder blue uniforms, and hoping one day we'll see those. We'll see those back. So maybe that's where when I become wealthy, a donor. That's my contribution will be to powder blue uniforms.
We can make it happen. I know a guy.
So how do events like Day of Giving kind of foster that community amongst the donors, alumni, other supporters? Is it a big way or a great way to kind of create that community?
Yes. So what I've always said, and I stumbled upon this when I was working at Long Beach State during COVID. We had always done Day of Givings, and they were kind of hit and miss, depending on how much energy you would get. And what we stumbled upon during COVID was, if the student athletes are creating the information, and I always describe it as chaos on social media platforms. So we try to really engage all of our coaches, all of our student athletes, and if all the teams are doing it at once and they're posting, and what happened at Long Beach was the student athletes were bored because they were at home. It was like April 2020, so all this had just happened.
Sure.
And they were all bored, and they were all tweeting and making their own messages on Instagram and whatever. And what we found was we were raising a whole lot of money from a whole lot of new donors. So our goal is to really hit every form of communication. So we're going to hit you in the mail, which you should have received a mailer this week. We'll hit you by phone on that day. We'll hit you on social media, email. So you really can't say that you didn't know it happened. And there's all this chaos, there's all this activity, so that hopefully you're like, something is happening at Akron. I need to find out what it is.
Sure. And that's always a big challenge is just that engagement between the community. Akron is proud of the University of Akron, or like we call it here, Akron U.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you know if someone's from Akron, is how they
Akron
refer
U.
to it. But, again, anything we can do to, to fill the stands, in addition to, the financial needs that are in need, so to speak, here on campus as well. So you have other programs like Summit Circle. So how do Summit Circle and Day of Giving, how do those all work together? And what, at least for Summit Circle, how is the membership going with that?
Yeah, so Summit Circle, we're doing really well. We're over 50 members, which is fantastic. We have a goal to get to 100 members by realistically the end of 2027. Okay. And to join the Summit Circle, it's a $25,000 commitment over a maximum of 5 years. So $5,000 a year for 5 years would be the minimum commitment. And really why we created the Summit Circle is it's an opportunity for coaches to be able to project their budgets moving forward. So as you can imagine, Coach Gross is sitting down and he's trying to make his budget, and he's going, well, am I going to get this donation or am I not? It helps him to know, hey, I signed up Jacob for 5 years. I know I've got his $5,000 coming, so I can go ahead and make that decision. It helps us as an administration be able to make those decisions. And then really it builds on each other. So we've got a small staff here. We know that there's not a whole lot of us to do the work. So it helps us to steward you, but we don't have to go back and ask you every year for the gift again. And that's really the beauty of the Summit Circle. And if we can get to 100 members, you're talking about $500,000 annually that is coming into the university for the athletics program.
So is there a way that, as Day of Giving, is that part of the process? Could you become a Summit Circle member during Day of Giving, or you kind of compartmentalize those things?
You can always become a Summit Circle member, Jacob. So we break up fundraising into really two categories. There's annual gifts, and then there's what we call major giving. And major giving is at $25,000 or more.
Okay.
Annual giving is really, it's smaller gifts that are an engine for us. But what we find is that most donors start as annual givers, and then as their affinity grows over time, they become major givers. So that's why programs like Day of Giving are huge for us. We get hundreds of new donors every year that we can comb through, and it really helps us build our program.
The entry point into being part of the process.
Yes, absolutely.
Got it. So you can grow them and nurture them to become, that makes perfect sense.
It helps us find more ZIPS. It helps us find more people that are interested in athletics. That a lot of the folks that you see with their names on buildings and things around here, at one point, they gave $100 to start. They gave $50 to start. And then, it grows over time to where they're, buying a field and putting their name on it.
So Day of Giving is April 17th. So you'll see social media posts. I guess if you're watching this, you're probably also following something related to the University of Akron.
Yep.
So you'll see, I guess, to your point, communication from student athletes, from coaches, encouraging folks to donate on that day.
You should see it all.
Okay. If not, reach out to you.
If not, reach out to me. Check your mailbox. You should have something in there. If you gave last year, it should be hitting this week.
Got it. So this past year, it's been fantastic, at least for the winter sports, fantastic ZIP season. So I guess starting in the fall, we had men's soccer with Big East champion, women's swimming and diving, MAC champion, men's indoor track and field, MAC champion, and then obviously basketball, we know with that, MAC champion, tournament champion, and also in the NCAA tournament. So how do those athletic achievements impact, the work that you do in the development office for athletics?
Yeah, I mean, it generates excitement. It always creates more fans, which is great. As I said, the entry point for most people is either a $100 gift or they buy a ticket. And once they do that, that's where Sam and I come in at the ZIPS Athletic Club, and we really try to foster and nurture that environment to make sure that they have a good time and that they're seeing the value of their donations and the impact that it's making, not only on the student athletes, but the institution and then the community. I'm a firm believer that if the athletic department is strong, the institution will be strong, and the stronger the institution is, the better Akron and the surrounding community will be. I've seen it happen in person, and I certainly believe that it's a reality here as well.
So looking at, kind of big picture, what are some upcoming projects or facility enhancements that you see coming down the pike for athletics?
Yeah, facility enhancements are, they're usually back burner items for us now. So the institution really has done a good job of, if you look around our facilities, and certainly there's areas that could use some improvement, but across the board, we do a really good job with the facilities, and they look good and they serve their purpose. A couple things that we're looking at here and there. I'd love to turf the softball field. If anybody out there wants to turf the softball field, give me a call. And that most of the things that we're looking at now, we would consider them extras or pluses.
Got it.
Baseball has a turf surface, and they don't miss as many home games. And that's where we'd like to get softball one as well, so that they're not missing as many home games. It's Northeast Ohio.
Sure.
It's wet in the spring.
Absolutely.
Other ones they're little projects here.
So we're looking at, with by the way, fantastic facilities here. Obviously, as people come and look, either fans or, potential student athletes, everyone always talks about the facilities. So the things that we are in need of are more nice to have versus need to have. Is that a good way to kind of describe?
That's a great way to put it. We are in pretty good shape. Since I've been here the last several years, we've done quite a few what we would call major capital projects. You've seen the scoreboard, you've seen the field turf. We've done several things throughout all of the locker rooms, and we did the Wentz Financial Player Development Center.
Absolutely, and that is a fantastic location.
and the track. I forgot about the track.
Absolutely.
So really at this point, we're looking more towards budgetary support.
Okay.
And then there's a handful of things here and there. Football, the locker rooms could use a refresh. So a lot of them are more maintenance and refreshes as opposed to a full capital project.
Got it. So in kind of continuing to look forward, are there any new initiatives or partnerships that you're super, super excited about coming down?
We're always excited about new partnerships. No, we just want to continue to reach out to folks. It's a community, as you said earlier, it's a proud community. And the more that they can support this institution and the athletic department, the more we're going to see growth, and we're going to see everyone coming on board. I'm excited about the Fear the Roo collective. I'm excited about the settlement, the House settlement that I'm sure everyone's been following intently.
Is it done? Is it official?
So they continue. Yeah, they continue to negotiate, and I'm excited to see how NIL will change how we fundraise and how all of that continues to work. Obviously, Bud Wentz and his group are doing a fantastic job. I'm excited to see how we as the institution, once all of that gets passed, can help bolster those efforts.
Because I think, to your point, I mean, NIL is part of athletics now, but it could impact, in addition to facilities, but also, I mean, the Fear the Roo collective. So would your team then be involved with the recruiting, or the fundraising of the collective?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay.
That potentially, when they bring it in-house,
Got it.
Our staff would be able to go out and actively get those dollars and bring them into the university, or actively talk about the fundraising.
And we know how important NIL is for every sport these days.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing it every day. The numbers continue to creep up and up.
Sure.
So it is the new arms race. It used to be, when I started fundraising, it used to be stadiums and locker rooms and all of those bells and whistles. What you're seeing now is it's more NIL.
Sure.
Hey, I can deal with a locker that might be 10 years old if you're giving me X, right? Like,
absolutely.
Once the money changes, it's the new battleground for sure.
Sure. So kind of as we'll transition here into some more, I'm not to say better or funner questions, more personal questions about you. But so here's a chance for you, Camden. By the way, we're with Camden Stockton. He's the Senior Associate Athletic Director for Development here at the University of Akron on ZIPS Nation Insider. What message would you like to share with ZIPS Nation, so to speak, about how they can get involved? Any just kind of final words on that?
Yeah, I think my initial thoughts and reactions to that question are, we've seen it at basketball. I've seen it here at soccer games. I've seen it occasionally at football. We as a community can come together and really support these programs and have a first-class Division I program here in Akron. I know that there's our big brother down the road in Columbus, but you can have that environment here in Akron. We see it during the Kent game. We see it during Ohio and Toledo. But the reality is you have a top basketball program like right here in town. Tickets are inexpensive. You can come and have like a top-notch athletic experience here on campus. And if we come together as a community and support those things and continue to show up and grow what the foundation that's been laid, we can have a heck of an experience here and a heck of an environment and build something really special. Excellent. Awesome. And Chad Welker, who's been part of this podcast, refers to Akron as a sleeping giant. Like, that's something that he talks about quite a bit, is there's just that potential. And to your point, we've seen it with basketball. If anyone's been to a Akron-Kent game here in the Jar, that is an environment that is it's just chilling. I mean, you can't, especially when the team is out. I mean, just, last few years have been lucky. They've been winning. But it is just a fantastic environment. And when you make it a cultural thing. Sure. And once it gets to a cultural thing, then you've really hit, like, where you don't have to think about it. I'm going to the ZIPS game tonight. That's when you hit a point where you've made it. We're getting there. But think of Enrique Freeman night. We had 850 students here. That's darn near wrapped around. Yes, I mean that's darn near 5% of the student population. Or we need to continue to grow that. So one of the things we like to ask our guests. Now, by the way, where are you from originally? Where did you grow up? I grew up in Carl Junction, Missouri. So Carl Junction, Missouri. Southwest corner. Yeah. So one of the questions we like to ask our guests is, we call it our hometown pizza. So if we're visiting Carl Junction, I'm sure there's a lot of reasons to visit Carl Junction. There is. Where are we going to pizza? Where are we going? So the actual spot, Gambino's is the only pizza place in Carl Junction. I do like Gambino's. However, within 20 minutes of Carl Junction is Joplin, Missouri.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Pizza by Stout used to be the spot. The tornado got rid of that. And frankly, I haven't been there too much since the tornado. But yeah, Pizza by Stout, you couldn't beat it. The Sunday buffet.
Sunday buffet
Was on spot.
Do you have a specific order? What's your favorite?
Well, it was the buffet.
Buffet.
So, yeah.
So a little bit of
just a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
You don't need to pick.
Yeah, you don't have to pick.
Yeah.
I don't even know that they do buffets anymore. Is that a thing anymore? I haven't.
I think there's a few chains that have.
It's starting to come back.
Yeah, but
post-COVID.
there was when I'm asked that question, it's Godfather's Pizza in Seattle area where I grew up, and they had anytime there was a early release day in high school, you'd always go down to Godfather's to do the pizza buffet. So
that is one thing. As I've been around the country, my wife and I are always looking for the pizza spot in the new.
So what has been in the spots you've had? What's been your favorite pizza?
Yeah, so Pizza Snob was the best in at Fort Worth when we were at TCU. That was hands down. Mountain State Brewing whenever I was at WVU. That was easily the spot. We love Totally Baked here.
Totally, okay.
We're a big fan of the Cheech and Chong and the what's the other one? Great pizza.
Okay.
Either way, great pizza. Good stuff.
All right, this is our rapid fire question or segment.
All right.
So this is, again, first answer that comes. Rapid fire segment is brought to you by 330 To Go, Northeast Ohio's fastest and hottest growing news and entertainment network. All right, again, this is the first answer that comes to your mind. What is the most memorable sports moment you've had, your experience in your career?
We won, when I was at TCU, we won the Peach Bowl after getting snubbed from the first CFP, and we beat Ole Miss like 51-3. And it just you felt really vindicated after getting snubbed from that first CFP.
So TCU's Peach Bowl victory over Ole Miss.
Yeah.
All right, what is your favorite University of Akron tradition or event?
Well, obviously the Kent State game is fantastic. My favorite tradition is I really love like the homecoming situation that Willie and the Alumni Association have over there. And then the KSU CKS chant is also great. Makes me laugh.
Awesome. If you could fundraise any new facility or project at Akron, what would it be? Your dream. This is your dream project.
Yeah, we would renovate, and I love the jar, so I wouldn't do anything to the bowl of the jar, the actual arena. I would renovate the outside fan amenities, all of that. That would be a dream.
So the jar, that would be.
Yeah, I would change the bleachers, but we keep the jar as is.
Sure.
The rest of it, we need better bathrooms over there.
Do you have a hidden talent you'd like to share with the world?
I do. I can blow bubbles off of my tongue.
Oh, yeah, I know that. I got that.
And they float through the air. And
sure, I know exactly.
It used to be a habit that my mother would just whack me in the back of the head, and I grew out of it a little bit. But
I do that as well. That's a talent, I guess, a hidden talent that I have as well. Yeah. And I was just doing that the other day.
Yeah, I'm also pretty good at trivia.
There you go. There we go. What's your favorite memory since joining the University of Akron?
Easily favorite memory was winning the MAC championship this year. The effort that the ZIPS Athletic Club team put into this season, especially with we took on the Rowdies and growing all of that. And then just being there for the comeback. And you saw the fans, and people were a little dejected at times. And seeing the relief on some people's faces and the joy was a rewarding moment.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
It was great. Yeah. That's a good way to describe it.
I wouldn't have scripted it that way, but it was great.
Yeah, I was sitting with Sam, who works with you, and she was a bundle of nerves.
Yeah.
Bundle of nerves during the game. Favorite sports movie?
Major League.
Major League. It's good.
Love Major
Very
League.
Apropos to where we're at.
Major League.
What's your favorite quote that motivates you in your work?
There's the book Shoe Dog. It's the Nike's 10 Principles.
Yeah, okay.
And all of those 10 principles, I've got a copy in my office. And
Okay.
I check those out occasionally.
By the way, there is a kid's version of Shoe Dog.
I didn't know.
For younger readers. We got it for my son for Christmas a couple years ago.
It's a great book. Check it out.
And finally, what's your guilty pleasure movie or TV show?
I always watch Parks and Rec before bed, so
Got it.
that's it.
Parks and Rec.
Parks
before
and
bed.
Rec before
That's not
bed.
that guilty pleasure, though. I mean,
Well,
that's pretty mainstream.
it
There's no
is.
Real Housewives somewhere in there.
I don't do Real Housewives. My wife will make me watch them occasionally. Not my jam. There's that one, Forgetting Sarah Marshall. That's
That's a good movie.
probably a guilty pleasure one. A little rom-com.
The vampire Muppet puppet.
Yes. Yes.
Well, great. Thank you, Camden. We got Camden Stockton here with the ZIPS athletic department. Thank you so much for being on ZIPS Nation Insider. Appreciate what you do for athletics. Obviously, without the work that you put in, you and your team, Sam, we're not able to do what we do and connect with ZIPS Nation, our ZIPS Nation, so to speak, all the fans. So we're super grateful for what you do. Again, Day of Giving is next week, the 17th. Hopefully, we'll find some opportunities to raise some and maybe beat last year's $182,000. That would be fantastic. So, thank you so much, Camden, for being here.
All right. Appreciate it.